I'm here with Seth and Tanya at Metal Art Comic Con. Guys? How are we enjoying day two of the con, and how was your first day?
We had a great day yesterday. It was very fun. Lots of interesting characters walking by, and we had lots of friendly people stopping by our booth.
How about you, Seth? How did you like day one, and how's day two going for you so far?
Day two, we're still recovering a little bit from the excitement and the adventure of day one. I know that I'm going to need more coffee, but in the meantime, I have enough for now.
There's no such thing as too much coffee.
There never is, especially when you're keeping up with the energy. We had so many great smiling faces, so many interested folks who came by. There were things that seemed to attract such a wide group of great fans, people that have never heard about some of the stories that we're bringing and wanted to know more, especially when it came to the comic schlit and we had an opportunity to tell them about characters they love and already know and the lines through history that we are drawing through our essay collection. Between that, great stuff for kids, prize wheel where who knows what could happen. Yesterday President Loki was here. You could have gotten a selfie with him. Today we have another guest appearance, but we'll save that for later. So if you want to find out who, you need to come by.
Looking forward. So, real quick, I want to talk about what you guys have at your booth, starting with Hapsy. What is that all about?
So, Hapsy is an eco-conscious children's collection of comic book stories. Each one is about 18 panels, and they feature great characters like Upcycle Michael, who finds things people throw away and finds great new purposes for them. Nice. My character, Greedy Greg, is the opposite. He always takes a greedy approach to a great new eco-conscious idea, and then it blows up in his face because he's so greedy that he never understands the value of what he's doing. Instead, he just tries to make more money from it.
Kind of like Captain Planet in a sense.
He's the opposite of Captain Planet. He would be a Captain Planet villain. He would be somebody who Captain Planet is always coming in. He would be an antagonist, true. In fact, and recently, Greedy actually funded his own team, the Animal Pollution Patrol, who at some point found themselves at odds because he was willing to take a payoff for letting pollution go, whereas their whole mission was to stop it. So he gets in the way of the good guys. He can be something of an antagonist.
So yeah, he's definitely like a Captain Planet villain.
Yes.
So show, you want to show the people?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So this is Hapsy. That is my guy right there, Greedy Greg, with quite a sinister look on his face, even as a heroic team behind him that he's supposed to be supporting. They're going to find themselves at odds in this story. And if you come on down and get a copy, take a look. Also, the great thing is we have a little code here because all of Hapsy's early adventures are available online for free in a digital format. So we try and make it something where you can come and look through the stories here, check them out online, and if you really like it and want to bring it home or send it to someone you know who would love it, you can order copies for them. I send them to my nieces and nephews because Uncle Seth writes a comic, and sometimes I put their names in it.
Nice. So, Tanya, mind telling me about this stuff over here?
Yes, this is the main thing that Seth and I are here to promote. This is exclusive to this particular con. It's not even available for sale out in the wild yet. So we have...
So Comic-Con exclusive?
Yes.
Nice.
So it's an essay collection that talks about comic books as a form of high art. Sometimes we are comparing classic literature characters to some of the more modern comic book versions. For example, I talk about how Irene Adler in the Sherlock Holmes series is Catwoman for Batman.
I mean, you're not wrong, though. You're really not wrong.
And it happens more frequently than you would think. There's an essay in here about Moses and Superman. I'm going to send my child to be safe, and he will grow up and be the savior of the people.
I mean, again, that really does make a lot. Looking at it from a biblical point and a historical fiction point, it does make sense how they're like comic book characters.
Right, and so people may shun comic books because they don't value them the way that we think that they should. But think about what people used to do with novels. Oh, I would never read something like that, and now that's the high art that we look up to, right? So we argue that comic books will be the high art that people years down the line will look back and say, hey, that was the high art of its time. And since a lot of them are essentially the same stories, we should appreciate the value in all of it.
I honestly, looking at that, I would have thought of it that way when it comes to comics. I think that's a pretty cool thing. I also noticed you are a cosplayer as well.
I am. I've been very blessed to be involved with a group of people in Las Vegas who do cosplay. I've been Storm. This is my vampire cosplay.
If I can
Oh, yes, of course.
see right there. Also,
That-
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just I love being able to put on a character and just experience life through their eyes. Something happens when you just kind of transform when you put on the costume.
Oh no, I agree. So, what made you, real quick, because that's the question I always ask, what made you want to get into cosplay and how long have you been doing it for?
I have loved costumes since I was a child. So then you find out that someone can actually
Careful of the camera.
Or you find out that someone will actually pay you to do this thing that you love. Amazing, right?
Oh no, I completely agree. Now, Seth, have you ever cosplayed before?
I have not. No. In fact, there was a possibility if I could have found the correct pieces that I would have considered an attire for this event, but I could not find the equipment that I need in order to make the outfit work.
Dressing up with me for this event.
Ooh, that would have been nice.
Also, the costume choice might have left me wilting in the heat in the
Oh.
parking lot somewhere, and you never would have found or met me. It's true, and I'm prepared to make that commitment once I have the right fit and it's ready to go.
I'm looking
So,
forward to seeing it.
appreciate that.
So I also see you guys have a prize wheel right here, which I think is honestly cool. So what kind of things could people expect to spin on for the prize wheel?
Well, yesterday you could get a selfie with Loki, but Loki isn't here today. But today we have bookmarks from some of the authors that we're showcasing. We have Reburn stickers.
Ooh.
Reburn is an amazing independent comic book series written by Allison Shelton.
Here it is.
Yes.
So it's,
This is going to be one of my cosplays
ooh. I like that already.
because May is fantastic. She will end up being our savior,
Nice.
our protector. And Allison is actually one of the authors who's in the essay collection,
Nice.
as are some of the other people that we have on the table. Some of them are not in the collection, but because I figure I didn't get where I am today without help, I'm bringing the people who helped me get where I am.
Nice. So last but not least, where can people find you guys on social media, starting with you, Seth?
You can find me on Instagram as Seth the Writer and Threads as well, and you can also check out my website, Stories with Seth. That has links to almost everything that I'm doing right now, and it's probably the one-stop shop to find me.
Nice. And where can people find you, Tanya?
I am across social media at Ms. Tanya Todd. That's how you spell my name. Go to my website. You can sign up for my newsletter. That's where I talk about the events that I'm doing. I share pictures for some of the things that I've done, and I talk about the movie that I directed that is not out yet. It's going to hit the festival soon, but I'm very excited about it. So it made it on the poster. Morning Sacrifice.
Is that like a horror detective movie? In a sense.
It's a love story.
Ooh, even better. I just like the way the title and everything.
Yes, it's accurate.
Nice. Well, Tanya and Seth, I hope you both enjoy the con for the day 2, and I hope you get a lot more people at your booth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Floyd, how are we enjoying the new location on day 2 for Metal Art Comic Con?
Oh, I think it's a great location. Day 1 was awesome. There's a lot of people that came by, a lot of fans. The more open floor plan than the previous Metal Arts is really a lot better.
And like central air too.
Central air is really nice, and no flies, because the flies were bad.
Or birds.
Or birds, yes. So I miss the birds, but I don't miss the flies.
So for those who aren't familiar with you and what you do, mind telling those folks at home, whether they're watching on TV or on their computer or phone, what you do?
My main claim to fame is working for Topps doing Garbage Pail Kids. I did not create Garbage Pail Kids. I did not do the original Garbage Pail Kids. I've been working with Topps since 2017. And basically I work doing sketch cards of Garbage Pail Kids. And what that means is Topps sends us blank cards that us artists draw, send original art on, send back to Topps, then Topps inserts those into random packs.
And Topps is the one originally created Garbage Pail Kids?
Exactly.
Nice.
Garbage Pail Kids originally was originally a wacky package, which is more my thing because I grew up with wacky packages. Wacky packages were product parodies. Instead of crust, it was crust and stuff like that. And they created a Garbage Pail Kid wacky package back in '85. No, it was earlier than that. It was the '80s series, but it was never used. So when Topps was looking for a new thing to put out, they pulled that one up and said, hey, why don't we just do a whole set of these Garbage Pail Kids? And they got in touch with artist John Pound, who was an underground comics artist and an illustrator and stuff. And they basically gave him the job of creating all these Garbage Pail Kids for the first series and so on. So that's a brief history of Garbage Pail Kids.
So, speaking of Garbage Pail Kids, did you ever see the movie that came out in the 80s?
I did see the movie, unfortunately. I did not see the movie in the 80s. I just actually saw it within the last 10 years, I think. And yeah, it was horrible. It was worse than Garbage Pail Kids, actually, so I guess it was fitting.
I imagine. For those who aren't familiar with Garbage Pail Kids, they're basically a gross version of Cabbage Patch Kids.
Right, exactly. I brought some with me, just all these are kind of my
You also have your
collection.
your chips as well, I see.
Yes, the chips are from the Reno show I did a couple weeks ago, Silver Age. And what they did was, first I created the the poster for this one, which is Muddle Lark instead of Metal Lark. So I created one for a lot of the Colossus Girls shows. I did this one, which is Sour House instead of Powerhouse. I did the chip was taken from the Silver Ache instead of Silver Age. My favorite, though, I think is Germ Star.
Oh, from Gem Star.
Instead of Gem Star, yeah, and Gem State, which is a Boise show, yeah. So, but for Silver Ache, last time they did the poker chips because it was in Reno and it's really awesome.
And they make the gambling and everything.
Right, you can't use them for anything. I tried.
And they make for cool stuff. They make for a cool thing to have.
They do. They're really cool. So, and I am offering them at the table. So if you're in the area, come by and they're $10 each. Or if you buy anything $35 or more, you get a free poker chip.
Buy something, get something free. That's actually a pretty good deal.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
Yes, and I am signing the posters for free. I sign pretty much everything for free, with the exception of my brand new comic. And we can talk about that. My brand new comic is Swell Comics, #1.
Well, that's right, because I remember you showed it.
Oh, you haven't?
Yesterday.
Yeah.
You had that 1950s.
Yeah, I did it's a comic I always wanted to put out, and it's kind of a cross between Mad Magazine, Underground Comics. I did the old vintage look. The vintage pages look dirty, and I tell people the only thing not dirty in it is Eric Estrada's teeth, which are the only white thing in the book, and so it's just a lot of fun. It's 32 full color pages. I did fake ads. It's definitely got my sense of humor, which was a lot of fun to do. And it's selling like crazy.
So real quick, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with your art, or if they want to catch you at the next show?
Right. You can visit my hopelessly outdated website, planetfstudios.com, or find me on Instagram at The Real Floyd Man. On Facebook, it will be under Floyd Man Sumner. And my store is planetf.storenvy.com. So you can order some of this stuff online. So.
Well, again, Floyd, I hope you enjoy the rest of the con. And
thank you, Wayne.
Stay cool out there.
So I'm here with Mark Arnold, right?
Mark Arnold.
Mark Arnold.
Right there.
At Metal Art Comic Con, creator of Unconditionally Mad Part 1 and Part B, and so many other. What do you exactly do? I should ask.
I consider myself a pop culture historian. Yes, I do write books. I also have my own podcast, Fun Ideas Podcast. I do interviews. I write articles. I attend conventions. I do public speaking. So all sorts of different things. It's just pop culture stuff centered. Typically from the 20th century for the most part. But yeah, and I go for all the interests I have. I have interest in comic books and animation and music and TV and movies. So I write a little bit about all of that. with all my books.
So, what made you want to get into this line of work, doing historical stuff based on media?
How do other people, or how did I?
How did you get into it?
I found out that I could retain a lot of knowledge. I was always curious about more information about these things. I tend to write books about subjects that haven't been covered very well, like Harvey Comics or Total Television Productions, which did Underdog and Tennessee Tuxedo.
I'm familiar with
Yeah.
Underdog and Tennessee Tuxedo, good
And-
classic cartoons.
Chipmunks over here, things like that. Pac-Man TV show.
Oh,
things
I
like
forgot
that.
there was a TV show.
Yeah, well, that's what this book here is about. I'll pull it up. It's the first animated TV show based upon a video game.
It was really?
Yeah, there was Starcade, but that came out the year later. It had Q*bert, or I guess Q*bert was its own show, but it had
Right.
Donkey Kong and all those early video games. But this is the first one that they made an animated series
I
after
remember the Christmas
a video
special
game.
they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, that's in here too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, they did 2 seasons, and I didn't watch it that closely when it first came out. I did play Pac-Man a lot, but it was my publisher says, "Oh yeah, Pac-Man. My kid loves this show. Can you do a book on it?" I go, "I guess so." And it was kind of a work for hire, but I have my friend Scott Shaw is a good artist and everything. He did my Monkeys books, which I don't have out here, but. He said, "Mark, you're the perfect person to do this book." And I go, "All right, fine." So I made it work, and I have a history of Hanna-Barbera, I have a history of Pac-Man, I have a history of video games. So it kind of, and then I talk about the cartoon shows. So, that's how I kind of, all these books kind of come out, of just a curiosity of, what happened to that studio? What happened to that person? What happened to that magazine? Whatever.
Nice.
So.
Real quick, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with what you do, or whenever your next book comes out?
Okay, I'm always on Facebook. My books are on Amazon. For like this new Turtles book, which is about the music group, we actually have our own website called Not Just Happy Together. And but for the most part, yeah, you can find it at the usual places that way. I also sell signed copies on eBay, things like that. So
Nice. Well, I think that should be good, Mark.
thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of the con, and hopefully more people come to your tables and everything.
Please. No. Okay.
So I'm here with Dave Warren, who you may know as the artist for shows as The Simpsons, Animaniacs, and what else have you worked on?
Futurama, The Minions. Did you mention Pinky and the Brain?
I did not.
Pinky and the Brain. Dilbert, Men in Black, the animated series.
Oh man, I remember watching that as a kid on Nickelodeon.
Yeah. I'm an old timer, man. I've worked on a bunch of stuff. Ralph Bakshi's Spicy City, which was my first job in animation at HBO for a very short period of time. HBO had HBO Animation.
Oh, that's right. I remember
Yeah.
because they had a bunch of animated stuff like Spawn and everything.
Spawn and Spicy City. So there was 2 crews at that time, the Spawn crew and the Spicy City crew. So yep,
Nice.
absolutely.
So what made you want to get into animation and everything?
I guess, I grew up drawing Bugs Bunny and Snoopy and was kind of a cartoon kid growing up. And I always was always drawing. I was always creating something, right? Doing the school newspapers or that's what I was known for as a kid. It's like, oh, look at how good Dave can draw. I ended up being an art director in my 20s for a clothing company in Los Angeles that did clothing for Disney and for Warner Brothers.
I remember that being a huge thing back in the 90s.
Right, so I was doing all the caps and the T-shirts and all that for the studio. So I was doing Bugs Bunny and I was doing Mario Brothers and these characters, but I was doing it for clothing. And I hired a guy to come work for me that was out of animation. And he just went, "Oh, it's such a terrible job. Animation, they work you like crazy. You never get a day off." And all I heard was, "This sounds like the best job ever." So I went to school at the Animation Union for 2 years at night, got my portfolio together, and then started shopping. And 6 months later, I got a call from HBO, and they said, "We're going to do this show with Ralph Bakshi. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Oh my God,
Ralph,
yes."
he was a big name at the time. Fritz the Cat, Lord of the Rings.
Yep, and again, it's when I was a kid, Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic, like those movies were like epic.
Oh yeah, I mean,
right.
they were controversial, but they were like the art style.
Yeah,
really well done for the time.
absolutely. And then Lord of the Rings, you know what I mean? And so a lot of people forget what a big deal that was when it came out. And so it was like, I got to work for my idol, right? And then, lo and behold, that show gets canceled, and my next job is Pinky and the Brain. So it was like I got to work for my real idol, Steven Spielberg,
Again, another big name at the time in the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, Spielberg was responsible for the rebirth of, the afternoon cartoons. So Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, and then what followed, Hysteria and those other shows. There was a revival because prior to that, we were in that period of extreme commercialism in animation, right? So it was all G.I. Joe and things like that, and those series were basically designed to sell Hasbro products and that. So when Spielberg came along, it got back to storytelling and actually making quality cartoons, So for me, again, as a young guy, wow, what a blessing. Chuck Jones was still alive. The old timers, some of the old timers were still there. Norm McCabe had an office right down the hall, so he'd go sitting down in his office and chat and hear the old stories of the good old days and Termite Terrace and all that, and it was just the best, really.
And I just can't imagine what it'd be like working for Warner Brothers and Fox too.
Yeah, well, they're all different. I went from Warner Brothers, which was like a amazing family. I'm still close friends with just about everybody that I worked with at Warner Brothers to this day.
Nice.
And then I went to Sony, and that's where I worked on Dilbert and Men in Black, and Sony was completely different. It was where Warner felt like it's a family, Sony felt like a job. Like it was serious, and it wasn't as much fun and goofy. I really felt like I was in the business then, And then from that, I ended up on The Simpsons, and that was the beginning of what's been a lifelong opportunity for me, really, because it was starting out as a layout artist and then becoming a story artist on the movie, and then I ended up being creative director for the show and did that for a long, long time. So that was really cool.
Definitely, you have a lot under your belt, basically.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing it a long time.
So real quick, Dave, where can people find you on social media if they want to stay up to date with your art or see you at a next convention?
Well, you can go to my website, which is elarto.co.
Nice.
Not El Barto, elarto.co. Or you can find me on Instagram at I am Dave Warren, or on TikTok at El Arto.
Ooh, nice. I'll be sure to follow you for sure.
Please do. And as I said, man, I love your moniker on Instagram.
Thank
so
you.
yeah, it's the best.
It's the best. Thank you. Well, Dave, you take care and hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Same.
So how do you pronounce your last name?
Costantino.
Costantino?
Yeah, with a COS.
Okay. So I'm here with Stephen Costantino, who, if you're not familiar with, is best known as the Gamorrean Guard from Star Wars Return of the Jedi. I almost said Revenge of the Jedi. So, how are we enjoying the con so far, Stephen?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm great to be here, and I'm glad everyone's coming out to see us. And it's always great to meet new people and go to new towns and do shows.
So is this your first con ever?
No. I've been doing this 15 years.
15, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So how did you go about playing the Gamorrean Guard in Return of the Jedi?
Well, I had a band with actually Corey D. Williams, Billy D. Williams' son, and we basically played music, and Billy had asked Corey to stand in for him for the new Star Wars. I don't think they knew the name of it yet. In Arizona, Yuma, like Buttercup Valley. And Corey was a little adamant because we were working on music, and then Billy asked me to come along and continue to create our music. So I went to the set. I was there for 3-4 days, and Corey was standing in for his dad. And then Howard Kazanji, the producer, took us out one night, and I asked him if I could help out in any way. I'll work for free. And the next day, we go in, he makes me a Gamorrean Guard, and he makes Corey Klaatu, and there were some pictures of us with our mask off that Billy D had taken, and the still photographer, and it was put in the archives for many years until like Sorry about that. Well, 15 years ago, it came up on the internet, and people went crazy and said, "Would I start signing autographs?" Because we were revealed with the mask off, and when they saw that picture, they said, "You got killed by Luke Skywalker, and we'd love to have your autograph." And I haven't looked back.
Right here. So I gotta ask, I imagine you were sweating under that thing with all that. Not only the outfit, but like the costume itself must have been very hot, especially when you were filming.
Latex, yeah. There's not many pieces: the hands and feet, the top and bottom, and the head. And there's a picture I'm trying to find of them putting a blow dryer in my mouth to cool me down. But they kept saying, "Well, it's only 20 degrees, but it's dry heat in Arizona." Yeah, it's very hot. But it was like a sauna. But I didn't even think about it then. I was just doing it. I was happy to be there and grateful.
So, did you ever expect to see yourself ever be in Star Wars, especially with it being Return of the Jedi, a more popular film out of the three?
No, that's a kismet situation as far as I'm concerned, and I'm very grateful to be here. And you never know, I've been a musician all my life, and it's hit and miss sometimes, and you keep working at it because you love it. And I love film, of course. I produced a few movies, but I was never really pursuing acting, and I could never imagine, and I can't imagine after we even did it that I'd be here signing now.
So it's had a huge impact on you then.
Oh yeah, well I saw Star Wars and Empire before, so when I was there, I knew the impact of the people, and I was in awe of how not just the actors but everyone involved, and the consciousness of being one together and synchronized like that was just amazing, and you learn so much.
Oh yeah, like you said, you never watched the first two films. You think you never even had thought, and then it happens. Like you're in one of the biggest franchises at the time.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even know how big it was then. We knew it.
You never know.
We knew Star Wars was big, but who knew that Disney was going to pick it up? There's no end to it now. Before they had prequels and sequels, and they try to finish the story, but with all the information and content out there with the series, it's infinite. That's for sure.
Well, I think that should do it again, Stephen. I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Thank you so much.
More tables.
I appreciate you, man.
Looking forward to seeing your panel later.
Oh, thank you. I think we're on a 12, yeah.
So, Andy, how are we doing today here at Metal Art Comic Con 2024?
It did the microphone.
It just started. There's nobody here yet. So, yes, I'm doing great.
So, for those who aren't familiar, Andy Merrill is best known as the voice of Brack from The Brack Show and Space Coast, if I'm not mistaken. So, you're best known for The Brack Show and Adventure Time, if I'm not mistaken.
The Brack Show, Adventure Time, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Disney's KIF. Yeah, I am.
So, what got you into this line of work, the acting and singing and everything?
I've always done it since, I was a kid. I started in my family's puppet ministry at church, and that's where I learned kind of like my improv chops and stuff. I learned to do different voices at that point. And, another thing was I just religiously watched cartoons as a kid and always paid attention to the credits, and I cared about who made the cartoons and stuff. Back in the day, in the early days of Cartoon Network, I was the cartoon guru. I was the person to go to that knew everything about the cartoons. So cartoons were always just kind of like ingrained in me, and so I don't know, once we came to the point where we were going to start creating our own, just kind of being in the right place at the right time, writing, and us not wanting to spend the extra money on voice talent, we all did our own voices, so that's kind of how that all came about.
I mean, you got to admit, the original Cartoon Network was probably the best back in the day.
Back before we were owned by another conglomerate or another media company, it was a lot more family it felt more like a family. It was a lot more. You were able to throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks a lot more when you didn't have to answer to so many people.
Right.
So yeah, the early days of Cartoon Network were great. The early Cartoon Planets that we used to do, we knew the boundaries of standards and practices, so we never like jumped the boundaries or did anything like offensive or anything like that. So we knew where to stay in line, but on the opposite of that point, we would basically just create stuff and throw it on the air without showing it to anybody first.
Oh wow.
And that kind of freedom you had in the early days was really nice.
Not so much afterwards.
Not so much when you had more people staring over your shoulder, you know.
Oh, man. Couldn't get away with what you used to get away with back then, kind of type of thing.
You still can, a lot of the voiceover that I still do is like improv and stuff like that. So, especially like Oglethorpe, I pretty much stick to the script, but there's a lot of characterization and just like playing around with the lines and ad-libbing and making stuff up as you go. And so I often find that a lot of the stuff that I just kind of throw out there makes it into the show. So the same with Jellystone. When they brought Brack back for Jellystone, it was basically, that was more of an open script where they kind of would write lines and say, you know this character better than we do, just stay true to form. And so I ad-libbed a lot of Jellystone, but I stayed to their script, but I still ad-libbed a lot.
So real quick, what type of advice would you want to give for someone who wants to get into voice acting and everything?
That's a weird question, because if Dana Snyder were sitting here, it's like, or any other voiceover person, there's no real path to it. So my path was that I had created a show and I was there at the right time and they liked what I did in the writer's room. Other people are noticed on stage. Other people are very persistent, and other people are just so freaking talented that they'll get in. So there's no like real path to doing voiceover work, I don't think. So it's hard to give advice.
I mean,
my advice is create your own show, because most show creators are in their own shows.
That is like J.G. Quintel on a regular show.
Yeah, and Carl Greenblatt is Peter Potamus in Jellystone. And
Nice.
stuff like that.
Well, I think that should do it. Eddie, I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear what other songs you're singing. And yeah. And also, I hope you stay cool with how the heat's coming in.
I'm going to stop staying cool. I'm going to go insane and just swear at everybody.
So, Lou, how are we enjoying Metal Art Comic Con today?
Yeah, it's been great, thanks. We're just getting started. It's Saturday morning. Everybody's milling about. We're still getting a lot of people coming in. Costumes are being presented, a lot of cosplay. It's a good place to bring the kids. I'm seeing a lot of young kids out and about. Lots to see. A lot of vendors have tables with all manner of items to choose from. So you come on down here and find what you're looking for. That's the truth.
Oh, yeah, I know. So for those who aren't familiar, I mean, I'm sure everyone's familiar with your roles in such films like Devil's Rejects, Halloween, including, Axel in The Walking Dead. But some people might not know you also do voice acting as well.
I definitely have done a fair share of voice acting for films and video games, but also I used to do anime. And way back in the beginning, some of the early titles like Evangelion, Burnout W, titles like that, some of the vintage stuff. And so, yeah, I like voice acting. I would do it as much as I possibly could if I got that opportunity. I did Rango, and we won an Oscar.
Oh, I know. Really, I've yet to watch that movie, but it's a really good movie.
It's a great movie. It's perfect. It's very good for adults, actually. It's really built well for adults.
So, how did you get into voicing in anime?
Well, when I was living in Houston, Texas, ADB was a little company that was buying Japanese titles and having actors come in and match the lip flaps. And the only actors they knew were the guys doing theater, and that was us. So, but several of them, like Spike Spencer and Tiffany Grant, Jason Douglas, have gone on to great voiceover careers.
I've heard of. I used to grow up watching those like older anime, like on Toonami and everything, and I never knew that was you in some of them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, a question I always ask recently: what kind of impact has like acting and everything had on you over the years?
Well, it's provided for my family as a vocation. It has afforded me the opportunity to travel to places like Medford, Oregon. It's given me a chance to be exposed to a lot of things that I wouldn't be otherwise, and just through experiences on sets and inhabiting different characters. So I suppose it's opened me up to a lot of experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'm grateful for that.
Now, one more question: what kind of advice, personally, would you want to give to someone who wants to get into either acting or voice acting? Because I know they're kind of two different things in a sense.
I suppose, but it's all about telling a story. You should be able to sit at a dinner table and keep people engaged in a story, which is basically a beginning, middle, and end. Once upon a time, and then this happened, and then they lived happily ever after. You should master that craft. And by doing that, you should read a lot. And when you read out loud. You should know what you sound like when you talk. And you should look in a mirror and see what your face looks like when you speak. So those are important parts about being an actor. And then I think you should be a student of life. You should be able to watch life and observe and understand.
That's honestly some really sound advice. I think that should do it again. Lou, I hope you enjoy the rest of the con. I hope you get more people at your table.
Yeah.
And also, I hope you stay cool today, too.
It's not so bad. You know, I'm from Texas, so...
Oh, and I hear I have some friends that get pretty hot over there.
Yeah, this ain't nothing. This is fine.
Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
So I'm here with Dave how do you pronounce your last name?
Fenoy.
Fenoy. Okay, so I was right pronouncing it. You may know as the voice of Lee Everett from
The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, Rodan from Bayonetta, which is my personal favorite. That's the first time I ever heard your voice was in Bayonetta. So, real quick, what made you want to get into this line of work?
That's a good question. Well, you know, I had been a musician for many years. Went into radio, and while I was in radio, discovered voiceover. And started knocking on that door in 1990. I moved to LA to do voiceover exclusively. And at that time, I got into some cartoons, and video games were just coming to fore in the mid to late 90s. And I got a few gigs. I did some Lucasfilm Star Wars games. And
you were saying?
That's why we can edit.
Yeah.
I got into some Star Wars games, and at the time I just thought of video games as another form of animation, which it kind of is.
I mean, yeah, no, it is, because there's a lot to go into it, just like animation.
Yeah, but the worlds kind of separate. The animation more comedy, video games more drama. Rule of thumb. But little by little, I began to realize that this is a thing. This is an industry. And little by little, I began to realize this is an industry unto itself. And then a few years later, the Walking Dead game came along, and that changed everything.
Oh, yeah, no, that definitely is one of the big Telltale's. Probably one of Telltale's.
It is Telltale's biggest game.
The Batman one that you also voiced.
Yes. Lucius Fox in that game, but the game industry embraced me, my style of acting, my voice. Even though I still do cartoons, I have done many more games. I'm in between 500 and 600 games, That's a lot of titles. If you go to my IMDb page, you can scroll and scroll and scroll.
I did. I mean, you have like a long, again, from Bayonetta to StarCraft to Star Wars to The Walking Dead to Minecraft to even the voice of Pong Krell in Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was you.
That was me. Don't be a clone.
So, the thing I always ask, well, two things. What kind of impact has this had on you throughout the years of doing this?
Wow, impact that it's had on me. You know, I'm an actor. I make a decent living doing this. It has afforded me a lifestyle. What I'm surprised at is not the impact the industry has had on me, but the impact that we as voice actors have on the public. I have a sister who's a doctor. I used to tease her that, oh, you're doing important work. I'm just having a good time. And then I started to come to conventions and discovered that the work I do, that we do as actors, really touches people's hearts. I can't tell you how many people have shivered, cried, coming up and saying hello because some character I played, more often than not, it's Lee Everett, touched their lives.
I didn't know he had his own.
Oh yeah.
His own figure.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I think that should do it. You answered a fairly amount of questions I was going to ask.
All right. Well, thank you,
Dave. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the con.
All right.